Vince Oldry. I'm here with Josh Woodward. We're at the Mastermind Advisor podcast, and today we're going to talk about our actual funnels that helps us generate $2 million in new assets a month, actually a little bit more than that now. We're going to talk about more specifically for my financial planning firm just because it's an easier one to pick on, and talk about how we're generating the assets using the exact same funnels that we preach to people. And then Josh will give some pointers as well as far as what's going on within those funnels and getting better engagement and some of the differences that we see between what we've seen out there as far as what other people are using and why we do it our way versus why they do it their way. And one thing I'll tell you, though, is I don't do it my way for my ego. I don't do it my way for to generate as many leads or as many appointments as possible. What I, at the end of the day, what I really want are more qualified appointments that are going to show, not block time off of my calendar, and people that are generally interested in doing a financial plan, so not some sort of spin on trying to, do a Social Security plan or required minimum distribution plan to then spin it to try to say, hey, let me work with you. So it's a little bit more open that way, and I feel like I can be a lot more truthful, be a lot more ethical about the way we do things rather than try to bait and switch or something like that. So we'll dive into our funnel. Again, if you're listening to this podcast, we will do our best to describe it to you. And then if you want to go watch this or see this funnel in action, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Mastermind Advisor on YouTube. Or you can go to mastermindadvisor.com. We post our videos as well as our podcast.
Yeah.
So welcome, Josh.
Thank you. Yeah, this will be fun. I know our past podcasts, we graded other people's funnels and ads, and now we can kind of go through ours, and people can grade us and see what they think of ours. But it is key. I mean, everything that we design is not a numbers game. It's all quality based, and we'll show why that separates it and the steps that we make it take. So I'm looking forward to this podcast. It's going to be a good one to watch on YouTube, probably more than anything, but we'll try to explain what we're doing here.
Well, I think it's important to go through because, the other day I know you were talking to me about an advisor that was comparing us to another program that he was using, and he was generating more, quote unquote, more appointments with the other program that he was comparing us to. And what he was comparing was just appointments as far as what's being booked on his calendar. Not necessarily like the people they saw or the quality, but just people that were booking on his calendar. But then when he actually went through the numbers, or I know you went through the numbers with him, you went through all the people that he had, I think, 25 appointments on his calendar that we booked on his calendar, and 24 of them showed. And they were all good quality, right? They all had good assets. Yep. And then the other company had like 50 or 60 appointments booked on his calendar, but only like 20% of them showed. And that was the difference. Like, he didn't understand that. I'm like, well, crap, if that's what only people care about is just getting appointments on their calendar, I don't know what we're doing. Why aren't we doing that as a marketing firm? But when I think about my financial planning practice, the biggest thing I got annoyed with were people that were booking on my calendar that didn't show or had no interest or weren't very committed. That's what I didn't like, and that's why I wanted to get rid of it, because I remember doing dinner seminars, and I would get all these, quote-unquote appointments. Like, I would brag about booking 80, 90% of the room after my dinner seminar. But then in reality, how many people were actually showing up to those appointments? It was like 40%. It was bad. And I got frustrated because I would book these appointments in the evening, and I would stack them. So I'd have like a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock appointment. And the reason I did that is because I only wanted to work like some evenings. I didn't want to work every evening. So I tried to stack them. And what would happen is, like, the 5 o'clock would show, and then the 8 o'clock would show, right? So then I'm stuck there all night.
Of course.
And the other two didn't show, or maybe even the 5 o'clock didn't show. I'm stuck there till 8 o'clock at night waiting for the 8 o'clock, and of course the 8 o'clock one shows. But we didn't hear from them. We weren't sure if they were going to show. I remember specifically one of them, like, they were taking the bus to get to my office. I'm like, and if you live in Minnesota, it's a little bit different. Like, if someone's not going to, if they're going to take the bus, they're probably not going to be a good fit as far as the way we do things anyway. So it, and nothing wrong with the bus. It's efficient and that kind of thing. But just like geez, like if you're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to schedule my appointments around your bus schedule. Like I have to, like, there's
Not the ideal client. Yeah.
No, and I don't, I don't want to take evening appointments forever, right? So there is something about balancing your life. I don't do evening appointments anymore. Realistically, I can't anyway. I got 2 kids. One's in baseball, hockey, and racing, and then swimming. And then we got a new puppy, and then I got a 3-year-old. And so, yeah, there's just no time.
Nor do you want to. You got to spend time with your family. It's funny, though. I mean, yeah, you brought that conversation up. I have this conversation all the time. And it makes me think, I don't know, these guys want a cheeseburger. Do we just give them a cheeseburger and fill their calendar? It's easy. Like if it's pure numbers is what people care about, it's very easy to fill calendars. We've built funnels that have tested this, philosophy. You get in appointments for under $100. It's just, what's more important to you at the end of the day? Is it your calendar's full, or is it the quality of the appointment? Are they going to show those questions? And when I was talking to this advisor, we got into it, and when we look at the numbers, I understand advisors every day have a million things going on, right? You're always, and then the one thing you're looking at is just kind of week by week, it seems, and if one week's bad, well, then we can look at the week prior or the week after. Like, don't focus so much on if we have one bad class or one bad webinar. It's the grand scheme of the numbers. And so when we dove into those numbers, it was actually insane, because he had 25 appointments from his webinar. He had 26 appointments from his seminar. He had close to, I think it was like 65 million in assets on the table of set showed appointments that we put him in front of. And so when we actually dove into those numbers, he was like, man, this makes sense. And we kind of walked through it. So, I mean, those conversations happen all the time. And it does make me think, man, maybe we should just do a numbers game, a smart asset thing. It'd be so much easier, right? Instead of trying to walk them through and be like, hey, I know these first 2 weeks of the webinars, you had a couple appointments. Just hold on, ride it out, and I guarantee after a couple weeks, you're going to be tooting another horn. I mean, I just had a conversation with an advisor a week ago. They had their first webinar. They had 0 appointments. I told them, just hold on, wait until the next week. Let's see what you get. This week they have 3 appointments set. And so we just look at the grand scale, and it's just crazy. So
now there's a difference when we talk about our webinar, though, because our webinar runs Tuesday, Thursdays every single week. So it's not like we're throwing like a ton of money into one night of a webinar.
Yep.
And that's probably the problem. A lot of us have been ingrained as far as advisors with the typical marketing, throwing $2,500, $3,000 into one night, and then if we don't get the results that we want within that one night, we think the entire thing just exploded or imploded. So the difference here is it's more of a lengthy funnel, and we'll show you why we built it this way rather than just go to direct to a webinar or to direct to book an appointment. I don't want that. I want people that come in and are interested in building a financial plan. I'm not interested in people that have a Social Security question. I'm not interested in people that might have a required minimum distribution question. I'm interested in people that want to help. They want some help with retirement planning, and they are thinking about using someone to get that help. And that's why, my cost per appointment probably costs a little bit more, but I value my time. I don't like to chase. I only want to meet with the people that are willing to meet with me. So let's dive in. Let's dive into our, the first part. What we're going to do is I got to share my screen here. So let me share my screen. 1 second. Screen. I'll do the entire screen. There we go. It's going to, the never ending. There we go. So what we have here's our system. We built this system off of a program called High Level, and it's like Salesforce. It's like Keep. It's like Infusionsoft, HubSpot. You name it. Okay, so you could go buy, this base level program and build it yourself if you wanted to. Now, every time that we've told an advisor this is the program we use, they all go buy it, right? They go buy High Level, and they're like, oh my gosh, now what? Like, well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we've done here, right? The same thing with Salesforce. I've tried doing this with Salesforce, and it's like, overwhelming. trying to do it with HubSpot, Active Campaign, everything. It's a lot of work. And so if you're like, hey, I'm going to go do this on my own, great, go do it. Like, we spent thousands of hours building this out, and you'll see why. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in here. So I'm not trying to like hide anything that we're using now. There are other people in our industry that use high level. There are other people in our industry that use Keep or Infusionsoft or HubSpot or Salesforce. Did I say Salesforce? Well, anyway, there's tons of people that use, and then they build their own thing within it. And so if you've seen something like this, don't think it's their program. Okay, this is just a base. This is a part of a platform that we use to build our own thing. And then when we do work with other advisors, we actually will basically make their own account and put everything in their own account. Okay, so initially we're going to go through our funnels here. I'm not going to go through our ads. I think we've done that in the past, but I'm not going to go through our ads. But I'll go through our initial funnel here. And so the initial part of our funnel is if we're trying to get someone to go to a webinar, interestingly enough, I don't ask them to go right to my webinar. And so what I'm doing here is I've created a guide. I call it the Tax Efficient Retirement Strategy Guide. It's a guide to lure people in as far as what their interests are. Now, we used a retirement guide, we used a Social Security guide, and we did the same type of funnel. And we discovered that this was the best guide that brought us the higher net worth prospects, the people that are a little bit more interested in the financial planning. So that's why we used that guide. We did try the others. Now, before I jump into this, I did try direct to webinar. And that's exactly what we did during the pandemic. We did direct to webinar. And then we also did like another version of this where they download the guide and then went to an on-demand webinar, which I know a lot of advisors want to a degree because they're like, hey, how do we make it easier? Like, I'm lazy. Let's make it easier and not have to record a lengthier webinar and whatnot. Well, sorry, what type of quality appointment do you want? Do you want someone that's also lazy, or do you want someone that's actually like serious about financial planning? I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, if that offends you, I'm sorry. Like, it's not a silver bullet strategy here. Like, well, everyone else is doing this. Well, yeah, how good are they doing it? Not very good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get the idea on the marketing front of it being like, well, they're interested now, they want to buy now. Yeah, maybe if they're buying a product, but here, when you're trying to get pure quality, you can't. You got to have them invest the time. So offering a replay link, even like instantaneous, like, hey, watch tomorrow's webinar. We've tried it. It doesn't pull what you need to pull. Maybe, yes, you get more people to watch your webinar. Great. But at the end of the day, do they set that appointment? It's just the whole thing is designed to make someone stay committed all the way through.
It's you got to think about this as like you're offering like a high ticket offer, right? Yep. So any high ticket offer isn't like an Amazon, like a e-commerce type product where you show a video of the product, you're like, oh, that looks pretty cool, and then you go to the next link and you're like, oh yeah, it's only $40. Click, I'll buy it, right? Like, I just bought these stupid squirt guns, and then I bought this stupid like tank top that holds like a beer on front of it, and that was from like a Facebook ad. Yeah, that's like click, buy, right? Like, it was a video, go to the website, buy it. And my wife's not happy because she thinks this shirt looks stupid, but
I think you should wear it. You should wear it on the next podcast. I'm just saying. I really get people on the YouTube channel. Check out this Vince in a tank top with a beer in the holder.
Oh, it's great because it's like an American flag with Lady Liberty, and then like her hands like basically holding the beer. So,
that's awesome.
Anyway, my point is that if you're trying to get good quality, then you got to build a funnel to give you the quality. Okay, you can't just like if we wanted to get as many names and emails as possible, what we would do is we do a Facebook lead form, and all they don't leave Facebook, they just click, and all of a sudden you got their information. Well, it's not always their most accurate information, because if you think about Facebook, if they logged into Facebook, they put their simple information in there, they're usually going to give like their crappy email address, their crappy phone number. They're not going to give their best information in there. So you don't really want that data. You want the data where they actually have to input that data. So what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through our funnel quick. Now, I built a program called the National Retirement Academy. It's a nonprofit, and it's just a white label to help educate people on retirement planning. And so all I'm going to do is put my name, my email in here.
And while he's doing this, yeah, it's key to note that. I mean, a lot of our marketing is all white labeled. You know, we're not pushing CFG on the front end of this stuff. What we're doing here is creating a safe spot that they can realize that they're getting peer education. They're not getting pushed a product. They're not expecting to be sold. And so that's why it's important to have like when you're doing stuff like this, like an off brand, like ours is National Retirement Academy. There's a million other ways you could do it, right? But it's key to differentiate the two between this and your firm.
So it's a key point you brought up, and man, this podcast could go a long time, actually, now that I think about this.
This could be a part 1, part 2, part 3 thing.
But we will rebrand CFG, like not rebrand, but we'll do retargeting ads. So if we use this as the initial draw, okay? It's a non-threatening, non-committal type page, and then afterwards we'll build the advisor's credibility up by doing retargeting ads with their podcasts. We'll use the same guides, but we'll rebrand those guides with their logo and that kind of thing to retarget people. So that's how we brand advisors' brands, or we get your brand out there by retargeting rather than using your own brand at the beginning. If we use your own brand at the beginning, it costs us like 10 times more to get the same lead. Okay, so that's why we use the white label, because it's less threatening or a little bit more neutral ground. So people feel a bit at ease to give more information. And then compliance, if we have to do compliance, then we put their information on the bottom, or we use their own logo. So but the initial part here is they put their name, email, which I already did. They're just requesting the guide here. We're only asked for their name and their email and nothing more. And I think people get caught up here because they feel like they need to ask for their address, their phone number. But the funny thing is I see so many advisors ask for all that information, they don't do anything with it. So don't make it hard for people to put their information in. Okay, make it easy. So put their name, email in. And then we also use a program that checks to make sure the email is valid. It's called Never Bounce. So it'll check, make sure the email is valid, and then they can click submit. If it's not valid, it won't let them click submit. Then they come to another landing page. It says that we successfully sent you the link to download the guide, and then it's offering them a no-cost online tax-efficient retirement class offered Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. or 6:30 p.m. And then we have a simple kind of what they will learn. And then they can click reserve their spot. When they click reserve their spot, they can pick only 4 times available. They can't pick anything more than that. So basically, we're not showing them that it's evergreen. We're not saying that it's going to be on demand. They have to schedule some time out of their calendar to be able to watch it. It's not going to be offered all the time. So they'll pick the time that they want. Then they'll pick then they have to put their full name in. They have to put their email in again. Now people will ask, why are you making them put their email address in again? Well, I want people to be committed, right? I want them to actually schedule time. And then they have to put their cell phone number in or their phone number in. And the reason we do that is because of all of our automations. We send them text messages, emails, ringless voicemail to make sure that they attend the webinar. So we click register now, and then it'll bring them to another landing page where it says, thank you, you're registered. And then they have the option to download some other guides as well. So that's basically the first end of the funnel, and it's very simplistic. But if you think about it, you're like, geez, that's a lot of work to just register for the webinar. Yeah, it is. I did it that way on purpose because before, if I didn't do that, I'd have a ton of people register for my webinar. I'd have a ton of people attend too, but they were not committed at all. They barely watched the webinar. I could get at the beginning of this, I remember, Josh, we were working together when you were at Retirement Wealth Academy. Mm-hmm. I was getting 100 people to register for my webinar. It didn't cost me much, but I get 100 people. I still get 20, 30 people to attend, but I get 3 or 4 appointments. I was like, this is terrible. And then when I did get the appointment, I talked to them. They weren't very committed at all. They're just like, yeah, I just had a question on Social Security. I'm like, no.
Yeah, so it's not the people you want. So
no. So obviously this is a lengthier process. We've built other funnels where it's just go to landing page. Hey, are you interested? Book an appointment. Well, we can do those all day long. It's not going to be as much for the appointment, but they're not going to show.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your time worth? I mean, at the end of the day, I would assume the cost per like showed appointment is probably equal to like our route and someone else's buy per appointment route, right? But it's like, what's your time on that worth? Do you want to scrape through 30 people so you can have 5 appointments, or would you rather just have 5 appointments and all 5 show? It's really, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the advisor and what they want. I get, if you're a brand new advisor and you're trying to learn how to call and chase and get the cold calling, then maybe, yeah, quantity is more important. But if you're trying to grow longevity in a practice that's where you have time to actually help your clients, you're not just focusing on chasing, you're here to help, you need to have the free time. And if you know something's booked off your calendar, you want to make sure that person shows, right? Because that's usually they book for 45 minutes, an hour. If they don't show for that hour, I mean, that was an hour wasted that you could have been doing something else that you can no longer do because you wanted to feel good about your calendar being full with appointments.
Right. Well, hey, look, I'm an advisor too. I talk to a lot of advisors. I go to a lot of those events and stuff, and they love to talk about how many appointments are on their calendar, right? Like how good their marketing is doing.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down, like how much production you get out of it, it's like it starts trailing off, right? It's going really well. I'm meeting with this person. I'm meeting with this person. They have this much, but how much are they actually closing is a whole nother story. Yeah. So that's where my dad always told me, we talk commission, we don't talk premium, and it's the same thing. We don't talk appointments, we talk how much we're bringing in.
I love it. I love it. I see you showing the class too, but one thing I wanted to bring up about the webinar is one of the kickbacks I always get, and I'm always trying to talk advisors too, is the webinar is 45 minutes to 50 minutes long. It is a long webinar. Again, designed for someone watching that whole thing, and then at the end they raise their hand to set an appointment, they're going to show. I have a lot of advisors asking, like, well, right now I'm doing a 10 to 15 minute webinar, and it's working really well. I have a lot of appointments. The reason ours is 45 minutes is purely for longevity, get them committed. At the end of that, if they're doing all that funnel that we just went through, they watch the entire webinar, and then like, man, yeah, I want help. They're going to show to that appointment because they just committed all that time to get all the way through to attend. So that's another key thing is like longevity of your actual webinar. Don't try to shortcut it. Don't try to have a 10-minute webinar. Don't try to have a 15-minute. Our sweet spot is anywhere between, I think, it's 40 and 55-minute long webinar. Usually if you go over an hour, you have a lot of drop-off. If you can stay under the hour, it's good. But if you go too low, you just don't have the commitment to show it.
Yeah.
Yep. So just a key point is like webinar length. Anywhere between 40 to 55 minutes is kind of that sweet spot that we found work.
The other thing with that is when it comes to the webinar, though, like if we went deeper into that, the format. So,
yeah, of course.
My webinar, I think, is 112 or 120 slides. Mm-hmm. And every advisor's like, how do you get through that in an hour, right? Because if you're doing a dinner seminar, you have 10 slides. So it's like a motion picture. I'm just flipping through it, right? Because you want to keep the engagement there. You want to keep it moving. You don't want to just sit and stare at the slide for, just like I have this up on the screen, just sit and stare at it for, however long. You want things to keep moving. You don't want things to get stale. Because what happens is their eyes start wandering off. Let me look at my phone. Let me check my email. What's on TV? Okay, and then they come back and they're like, he's already 5 slides. So that's why I keep it moving, because they don't have time to go start wandering. And then also I don't talk about myself until the end. So I know everyone's like, every advisor's like, well, what are you doing? Like, I've been told to talk about myself and talk about like all the accolades I have and all the rewards and awards and how many clients I have. I'm like, there's one guy. I remember he'd start off his webinar. He's like, I've helped 2,000 clients, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if I was watching that and like, you have 2,000 clients, like, where would I fall on that list of clients? Like, that sounds terrible. Like, that's not something to brag about. That's terrible.
Yeah. Where's my time?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yeah,
He didn't do very well, by the way. I remember that.
It's the whole it's the ego thing, and we talked about this in other podcasts where everyone online, I mean, everyone's just is selfish, right? It's like at the end of the day, all I care about is how can you help me? Where's my solution? We could probably do a whole podcast on like a good format for a webinar. But I do think it's key. Like you started off with your why, right? Like you don't talk about you, your firm, what you bring. You talk about why you're in the business. And like
it's
you pull that emotional draw. Yep, it's a story. You're starting with the story. Yep, exactly.
It's a story of why we're doing this.
Exactly.
It's not a here's me and I am a CFP and I have 100 some clients under that I work with and I've been featured in Fox or whatever. No, like I don't talk about any of that stuff. Like I've been featured in U.S. News. I am a CFP. Like no, that's not stuff. I don't even talk about that stuff. Like no one cares. They're there for themselves. The people are there. Yeah. So all right, let's dive into this other part here. This is just our seminar funnel. Really not a lot to it. Just a quick landing page. Taxes and retirement. We like to do them at non-dinner seminars. So we do educational workshops at local colleges, libraries, universities. So just a quick landing page. What are they going to learn? And then for compliance reasons, we put the advisor that's teaching the class on it. If your compliance doesn't require it, then you don't have to have it on there. But I'm my own compliance, I guess, technically. And then we put, I'll just put one so that I don't have to put the name of the guest. Oh, I got to pick the date.
You still have to put name of guest. Just put NA.
Oh.
We just require it regardless.
And then it's going to come to the next page where we're going to actually ask them for their address. So we want them to at least put their name, email, and phone number in first, and then we'll ask for their address because what we do is we will mail them a reminder about the class. So we do email reminders, text reminders, phone call reminders. So we have staff that call all the people to confirm that they're coming, as well as we send out a mailer to help them remind them to come. So with that, let's go into our reminder sequences, our funnel, like our all the emails that we send out. So if they download our guide and they don't register for the webinar, we send them a ton of emails. Do you know how many it is? I don't even know.
It's a lot. So what we're going to go over now is like at each stage of this marketing, obviously there's holes in the funnel, right? People leak out, they fall out. Someone gets an ebook, but they don't register for the webinar. They register, but don't attend. They attend and don't set an appointment. The important part of all this, and I think what sets like what our marketing does compared to a lot of others is like, there's a lot of data there that a lot of advisors just don't take advantage of. And so we've built these sequences, and Vince has written some really good emails here where it keeps people engaged. And so at each stage, wherever they fall out, we're bringing them back in, getting them re-engaged, getting them back into the funnel, and getting them to commit.
Yeah, because if they download the guide and they don't register for the webinar right away, not a big deal. They might register down the road, and we've seen our emails bringing tons of people at different times to come register for the webinar. I know there's an advisor you worked with where you just stopped doing ads, and I think you filled his calendar for 3 months after you stopped doing ads, just going through the emails. Yep. And then it starts to trail off eventually because your emails are, if you don't keep filling up the pipeline a little bit of new, fresh people, eventually it's going to, kind of die out.
Yeah, so, it's funny how many advisors I talk to, and they're like, "Man, I probably have 1,000 leads after all of this," and they're just sitting in some Excel sheet or on the feedback forms, right? And it's like, "Well, what are you doing with them?" And they're like, "Well, they're just sitting there." And I'm like, "Well, let's take advantage of those." Like the individual Vince is talking about, he had I think 1,200 contacts that we collected for him, and he was like, "Just shut off ads. Let's just take advantage of the list." And we were able to fill his calendar with just purely re-engagement stuff, not spending any more money, but just taking advantage of money you've already spent. And so that, stuff like that is key. And people have been in this industry for a long time. They have huge lists. Just re-engage them, but we do it in a specific way. And I'm sure we'll go into it if we have time.
We'll go into our daily email funnel. I think you guys have a good idea. All right, so if don't register for the webinar off of the guide, then we're going to send them a bunch of emails to register. And then if they don't register, then they'll go into our daily email funnel, which we'll show you in just a second. When it comes to if they do register, we send them like tons of reminders to attend. You'll see that we send them text messages, emails, ringless voicemails, just a ton of stuff to remind them to come. And then afterwards, what's unique is our system will know whether they attended the webinar or not. And the same thing goes for the seminar, although a lot of advisors don't do this, but they should. Tell us, or you should, figure out who attended your webinar or seminar, figure out who booked an appointment, who did not book an appointment, and then who didn't attend or who did attend. And then based on that, they go into different email sequences. Whoever didn't attend, we try to get them to re-register. If they didn't come to a seminar, we're trying to get them to go to a webinar. Okay, so then they go into our daily email sequence, which I'll show you here. But basically, any path that they go, they're going to funnel into a different funnel. A lot of times, though, if they don't register after that, they'll go into our daily email funnel, which is an email that we send out every other day. Try to get them to warm up from our emails. We warm them up. We send them an email every day. They also go into our Facebook pixel so that we can retarget them with different ads, like our podcast, different guides maybe that they might be interested in. That way we're branding in front of them. And then on the 15th day, after they're getting emails every other day, we're going to ask them to go to our webinar. Now, if you open up one of these emails, every time within this email, I'm not asking for an appointment. And that's the key part, right? I'm not asking for a lot. All that I'm asking them to do is to, one, read the email, and then two, maybe download my guide. Okay, so I'm like, hey, I talked about this in my guide. Feel free to download it by going here, right? Then they go there and they can click that, and then they sometimes will register for the webinar because they go through that same funnel. But on the 15th day, now that I warmed them up, I'm going to straight up ask them, hey, go to my webinar. I'm not going to ask for an appointment. I didn't get permission for that yet. I'm going to ask for them to go to the webinar. After they go to the webinar, if they attend the webinar, at that point, I have somewhat permission to then ask for that appointment, right? Because I asked for that appointment within the webinar if they watched it. Okay, if you try to book a bunch of appointments after they registered for the webinar, you can book appointments, but they're probably not going to show. So that's the same, just like anything else, they're not as committed. So after 1 month, they go through that same process. Second month, we send them a different guide. Third month, send them a different guide. Same thing though. 15th day within that month, we ask them to go to the webinar. So funny enough, when I started this, I had a client. He's a client now, but in 2018, he came to my seminar, didn't become a client. We created these email sequences beginning of last year, and a month and a half in, after getting all the emails, he registers for the webinar, books an appointment, comes in. It was a $3 million client. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that's out there, and sometimes it's about timing. I forget what the stat is, but it's like, 3% of the people are ready to buy right now. 10% of the people are thinking about buying. Then there's a 60% of people that are like not really interested in buying right now, but they're middle thinking about it kind of thing. Then there's the 20% of people or 25% of people that just will never buy from you, ever. And so the big part that we're missing, or a lot of advisors are missing, is they're not going after that 65 or that 67% of people that are thinking about buying, and then the people that are like not quite ready, or the time is not right, or they're trying to go through some due diligence, and that's why you want to keep hitting them with different stuff: emails, blog posts, Facebook content, retargeting ads. All that stuff matters, because you can see here, like even when I go into our opportunities here, where I go look at like all the people that downloaded the guide, I can look at all the people that registered for the webinar, I look at all the people that have confirmed via text. And then over here, it says appointments. It doesn't show very many because we take people out of the appointments once we have that appointment. If they become a client or don't become a client. But like if I just I think this is the part that I get really excited about. Let me just see here. Let's just pull up Greg Clark. I don't know. Let's see what he's got. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so Greg Clark. If I look at this, on the right-hand side, I have everything that he's visited, right? From he visited the page, and if I click on it, I know exactly what page he clicked on. So he registered for our webinar. I know he downloaded the guide. And it shows all the timestamps too. So originally it came in from this ad, the ad that brought him to the guide, and then he registered for the webinar. If I want, I know exactly what ad it is. Not in here, but our team knows which ad it was that he did come from. And then our system also shows like all the communications, so you can see it sent him the guide, and then he asked for the link again, so our system automatically said, or it communicates like, it said, hey, Greg, your tax efficient retirement webinar is tomorrow. See you there. Hopefully you have your unique link to join. If you need us to resend, please reply send link. And he said send link. And then we said, thanks. We just sent an email to his email address. So, that's the kind of the really cool part here, as far as getting all this data.
He has if you go to client details.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to show his actual information. Right there. Yeah. But this is the part that I think is really cool that we just started doing, where now we have more data because we've partnered with a company that gives us more data. Like it's kind of like Epsilon, or what's that company called? That is it Epsilon?
That sounds right. I don't know. It's basically like what, how mail houses could always pull them, like this is their asset level, we're targeting them specifically. We now have the ability to do that on the digital front, which is awesome. It gives us a clear picture exactly who we're targeting. We'll go. I mean, I'm sure Vince is going to scroll through and show all this stuff, but literally can be a game changer to the digital marketing format. Because one of the biggest pieces we were missing was like, and we heard this from advisors all the time, was like, man, I've met with all these people and no one had assets, or no one seemed really interested. And now it's like, well, actually, here's the data. Let's maybe talk about how we're setting those appointments, those virtual appointments, and how you're going through that process. But
you have so much stuff to talk about here. This guy's interested in gardening, right, or landscaping, or football, golf. That his favorite sports are football and golf. That he has somewhere between $3.5 million to $1 million, right? So there's his estimated home value. This also gives us like a score, like the likelihood of him hiring somebody for financial planning help. Gives him a score of 64 out of 100. So not the best, but not terrible either. Some of the financial interest is estate planning. He's got enough money. So my guess is that this guy, probably classically that I usually get, this guy wants to know how to spend his money without running out of money, which is a classic. But he doesn't want to spend down his principal. So he probably wants as much income as he can get from his assets without spending on the principal and still get decent returns without having a lot of risk. Okay, sounds like everybody. But for a lot of the nudie guys that are out there, this is the key. Okay, because a lot of times when you guys go show someone that has $3 million and you go show them like a $2 million illustration, they're gonna go look at it and they're gonna see themselves spending down their principal and they're gonna hate that idea. So don't go down that road. I see so many of you guys blow that up. You blow up the appointment because you think you're offering them something that they want, because you focus so much on risk, which is a good thing to focus on, but because you focus so much on risk, you forget about everything else. So, but this is really cool, right? At least I think this is really cool because the one thing that we're building out right now, which I don't think is completely built out yet, but I know we're working on it. Our system is going to talk to our system is going to talk to it, and then we're building out multiple funnels. So our emails now are going to be geared towards, if this guy's interested in golf, we're going to relate like Roth conversions to golf. If this guy's interested in football, he's going to fall into a different category within our funnels, and we're going to try to like relate some of the topics, our emails, to football. Or if he is interested in gardening or interested in going hiking or whatever it is, like his hobbies, we're going to make that relate. Like we're going to say, hey, golf is, Roth conversions is like golf, blah, 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 blah. And we've already done a bunch of them. It's pretty cool. Thanks to ChatGPT to reword my emails based on this person's interested in golf or interested in football. How do you, reword my email based on this person's interested in golf. It is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, this is huge because I think one big thing that we always forget, especially with digital stuff, with webinars, right? Even if you're running like a national campaign or even a local webinar campaign, I mean, Greg's a real person. He's a real guy on the other end that's looking for help. And if we can focus all of our content and all of our stuff that directly helps him and affects, like, speaks to him at like the email was written by Vince specifically for Greg because he has interest in this stuff, like, it will drastically change the conversations you have with all your clients, all your appointments. And that's it. It's awesome. So as a marketer, and for financial advisors, it should be huge because even if you're having a conversation on first appointment, you can bring up golf or football and automatically relate with this guy, and have those conversations right off the bat.
Yeah, and the other thing here is, if he didn't book an appointment but he attended, at least we know that he's worth worth trying to reach out to, right?
Yep.
Because he does have the assets that fit our ideal client. So that's something that you can spend more time on trying to go after versus not go after people that maybe don't fit your quality type of prospect. Now, this isn't 100% accurate as far as what they have for assets. We've run into sometimes where it might say they have less than $100,000, but then they actually have a lot of money. I'm actually kind of curious now if he filled out the survey.
It's pretty close.
We do have
though.
a survey. What's that?
It's pretty close though. With this, and we're trying some new things, so I don't know if this individual did it, fill the survey, but
I don't think he did.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing, and then guys, I mean, I know you listen to this on podcast or watching this on YouTube, and we went through a lot of this stuff really quick, but if you do want to dive into like what's the content actually is, or you want to take a look deeper into like what the automations are, just reach out to support at Mastermind Advisors. We can set up a time, maybe dive into this a little bit deeper, show you what Vince's written email actually looks like, get a feel a little bit more. I mean, we're over our time by 12 minutes. We try to fit our podcast in 30 minutes, so we go through this fast.
So much.
Yeah. So like if you guys are listening to this and man, like I actually would like to see what this email actually looks like, or how is his automations actually built with like the timing and all this stuff that just extra, just shoot an email at support@mastermindadvisor.com. We'll set up a time. Vince or I can probably go through it and give you an idea on what that looks like, or someone on our team.
Yeah, or just go to mastermindadvisor.com. There's a place for you to, if you just go to mastermindadvisor.com, you should be able to just,
I think it's mm.mastermindadvisor.com.
What's that?
I think it's mm.mastermindadvisor.com.
Mastermindadvisor.com?
Yeah.
We got to fix that.
Yeah, it's something with security that we have to do right now. That's all.
If you click contact us, you can schedule some time with our guys. So.
Yep. But yeah, we'd love to show a little bit more. I mean, we're over time, but obviously we went through a lot. But there are pieces in there that we'd be happy to go into greater detail with you. Non-salesy, non-pushy, just this is kind of what we have, So don't hesitate to reach out. It's awesome. Temporary. Yeah, that's temporary.
Oh, got it. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up here. I know we're way over our time here, so if you do have any questions, again, just make sure you go to mm.mastermindadvisor.com. I'm assuming by the time this podcast is live,
it'll be fixed.
That website will be fixed.
Yep.
But or go to mastermindadvisor.com and you'll be able to schedule some time if that's what you want to do, or go to our YouTube channel, check us out, watch all of our videos there. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, so that way you get notified whenever there's a new video out there. And then make sure to subscribe to our podcast as well. Obviously, you guys can listen to this, but also I think it's always good to get some good visuals. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Vince.